What's up? I'm Tyler.
And I'm Dakota.
And this is the Bourbon and Business Podcast,
where we interview successful businessmen and women to let you in on why success doesn't have a single formula to follow.
We also have a little bourbon tasting along the way, because why not?
Why not?
So guys, please enjoy this episode and let us know your thoughts at Bourbon and Business Podcast on Instagram.
Coming to you from the Bourbon and Business Studio here in the Capitol Club in downtown Jackson, Mississippi. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Dakota.
You could never pull off Dakota.
No.
Just kidding. I'm Dakota for anybody who's new listening, and that's Tyler. But
Dakota,
he normally does the intro, so I wanted to do it today.
Totally threw me off. It's probably all downhill from here.
It's all good.
You want to introduce our guest to us this morning?
You want to talk about the Capitol Club first, Tyler?
Yeah, the Capitol Club. See, you screwed the whole thing up. The Capitol Club is a exclusive downtown club here in Jackson, Mississippi.
It's a club?
Yeah, if you want to do any business networking, if you want to host an event, this is the place to do it. So go online and join the Capitol Club.
Wow, cool. I would love to introduce our guest. Today we have special guest Audra Bowman, owner and editor of The Scout Guide. Audra, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
What are we sipping on?
Today we're sipping on Gannett Peak. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a Wyoming blended whiskey.
So I like it. Smooth, proof. I'm going to say 90.
86.
86 proof, so lower proof. Not my favorite. I think, though, most people will like it. I mean, it is a good tasting whiskey. But personally, I'm probably going to have to give it a 6.5.
Tastes like Yellowstone.
Yeah. So 6.5 for it, but it is a good bottle. It's definitely worth picking up, and no better place to pick it up than Cheers Vineyard in Gluckstadt, Mississippi. We appreciate their sponsorship, and they have JT there.
They do.
He's knowledgeable on everything, so if you're looking for a bottle and what we drink on the podcast, it's the place to do it.
Check it out.
Well, Audra, we appreciate you coming on. We like to always start this podcast. If you would just tell our listeners where you're from and then how you got to the point of starting the Scout Guide.
So I was born in Jackson, born and raised there most of my life. I lived in Florida for about 5 years when I was middle school age, came back to Jackson, and then I went to Ole Miss, moved back to Jackson, raised my children there. I now live in Livingston, so just a little further out, and the Scout Guide actually kind of landed in my lap unexpectedly January of 24. I have another small business that I started about 11 years ago. It's 47 Blooms Jewelry. And so I've been, working, still doing that. My children are all out of the house now. So still, involved in my children's lives, but it was the perfect time for me to kind of think about maybe doing something a little different as far as the job. And the Scout Guide owner and editor in Destin 30A reached out to me. She's a good friend. And she said that the Scout Guide Jackson was on the market. It's been in Jackson for 10 years. At that point, it had been there for 10 years. And she said that the current owner was just looking to switch gears a little bit and needed someone who would take it and run with it. And so I did a lot of research at first. It seemed, a daunting task. I've not ever been in any kind of publication, but I met with the founding owners and as many editors as I could talk to. And it sounded like it was a challenge, but an exciting one. And so in April of last year, I stepped in and produced volume 11, and I'm now currently working on volume 12.
Well, nice. Well, tell our listeners a little bit about the Scout Guide. So what is the Scout Guide?
So the Scout Guide is a publication. The first time I called it a magazine, I had my hand slapped a little bit because it's not meant to be thrown away. First of all, if anyone ever throws it away, don't tell me because it will hurt my feelings so bad. But it is printed and published once a year per market. So Jackson, ours comes out in January. So it's kind of the best kickoff of the year. Other areas like Park City, for instance, theirs comes out ski season. Some other areas will come out beach season, depending on kind of what's going on. And I said, well, Jackson, in my opinion, doesn't have a season. So I felt like January was the best time of the year to kick it off. So it's a publication that is strictly ads, but I don't even want to make it sound like it's just ads. It's an elevated, beautiful, curated publication. So each ad is very, very thought through on my end and the client's end, and it's meant to be the best of. So it is a true guide. So I spend months out scouting for, the best of, the best dentist, the best florists, the best, wine and liquor store, whatever it is that anybody that maybe a newcomer to town, someone who's lived there for a long time, but they're just kind of interested in, maybe a new business, or someone who's recently switched gears and maybe moved into a new building or whatever it is. So it's my job first and foremost to scout and find the best of. And then I meet with them and we work together to create the best image that represents who they are. And that image is, I have 1,000 printed. And so for a solid year, once the guide launches, 20,000 are distributed. So that's 20,000 sets of eyes that see that image. And with it only being published once a year, it has a lasting power. You don't throw it away, and it's not a new ad the next month. So it's really recognizable. And it's meant to be your guide for, if you're new to town, the best dentist, well, we've done the research for you, and we can recommend them for all the reasons that would make, the best dentist office or whatever it is that you're looking for. So it's really meant to be a guide, and there are no articles in it. That's why it's not a magazine. It's just a true, like I have ones from different areas, New Orleans, for instance, and I have little notes written down if I've gone to, certain restaurants for dinner. So it's just a really good way to recommend people in places local that we all need to be supporting.
Okay. Well, nice.
Yeah.
Well, tell our listeners a little bit. So you had a business, a totally separate industry than what the Scout Guide is. What was it like making the pivot and the change from going from your jewelry company to the Scout Guide?
Well, I think it actually worked in my favor. Being a small business owner, I was able to not just be scouting other businesses. I could look at it through the lens of, okay, if it's me and someone's coming to me, what do I expect as a member of the guide? Because that's really what they become. It's a membership for a year. And, what would I expect? And so it helped me put myself in their shoes. And they were actually very helpful. I learned in the beginning of this, one of the first questions to ask is, what do you want out of this? Like, what changes would you like to see for me to bring to you? What clients, again, are you about to move into a new facility? Is there about to be a grand opening? And that helped me kind of understand what their ad needed to look like and who their target audience is. So that was a really good way for me as a business owner to say, what would I need? I would expect this, this, and this. And so with that, I took the guide. It's not just the publication. I actually have a podcast that is just starting that each member can be on, and it tells us a little bit of the background of how they started it. Was it a family business that then they took over, or did they start this on their own? We do a gala, a black tie gala, which I would love for y'all to come to in January. It's top notch.
Yeah.
Super fun. We had the Molly Ringwalds last year. It was a really fun celebration of each of my members. They all get there and they get to feel celebrated for the night. And then after that, I kick off the social media piece, the website piece, the newsletter, the podcast. We have mingles throughout the community. I would love for y'all to come to those. And it's a way to get not only the members that are in the guide together and get to know each other, which has been a great networking tool, but also different community members to come meet the people that we've highly recommended, And so that's been a really fun, a piece of it, in addition to just the publication coming out, which the publication alone is wonderful. And I'm not taking away from that. These are just bonuses that I, learned to handle and offer to our members as just a little bonus piece in addition to the guide.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the Scout Guide, how it's 100% female founded, national franchise, and how many cities is it in?
So it's actually now in 101 cities, which is huge.
Wow.
We had a conference in February and it's grown now, past 100. So it started in Charlottesville, Virginia, 14 years ago. Susie and Christy were best friends who owned a small business together in their community. And they started looking around and seeing that big box was kind of coming in, as we've all seen, happen. And I'm a huge, Costco, Amazon person, so I'm not knocking that at all. But as a small business owner at the time in Charlottesville, they were seeing that it was affecting not only their business, but other businesses in town. And so they were, thinking, how do we keep local support there? How do we keep these businesses thriving? Because they really are the backbone and the heartbeat of, Jackson and everywhere, where these guides are. And so they came together with the very first guide was, a small book that came out, and they got together with the people that they knew, that they trusted, that were the best at what they did. And it was published. And then other cities around there, Charlotte and Charleston and other cities started seeing it. They were like, well, we want a guide in our community. This is great. And it's just taken off from there. It is a great group that we all rely on each other. All of the editors, last year, my first year, I was calling like, please help me. Like, I had no idea that it was, I had to do all of these things. And the editors are so supportive of one another. The ones who are more seasoned, obviously, but even the new ones, we all kind of get together and say, yeah, I'm dealing with the same thing. It was founded by women, and all the franchises are owned by women, and it's just a great support team.
That's awesome.
Tell our listeners a little bit about what's it been like for you to travel around and meet with the different business owners, the networking aspect. How important is that, number one, to your business, and then also to all the other businesses in the area?
So when I bought this, I learned it says Jackson, and it is Jackson, but my territory is actually 28 counties, which is big for Mississippi. And some of those counties, I laugh, like they might not have a stop sign. So there might not be a business in those, but it goes up to Starkville and Columbus, over to the Delta, down to Vicksburg, over to Meridian. So it's a really big footprint of the state.
Wow. Yeah.
That I get to celebrate. So last year it was a big time piece, but I put so many miles on my car last summer. It was crazy. But I went to these communities, and I was met with a little bit of resistance by some that said, well, it says Jackson. I want it to say, whatever else. And I said, yeah, I'm working on it. I am trying to work on maybe Jackson and Central Mississippi. It takes a process to get the name changed. But they were very interested and excited because, there is a tie to Jackson in every area of Mississippi, Jackson to Starkville, Jackson to Oxford, Jackson to the Delta, it's really the heartbeat of the state. And so they understood the importance of being in a publication where mainly in Jackson, but distributed among those 28 counties for a year. So they understood it. I really enjoyed, again, asking them what their needs are as far as growing their business. I met with one of the first clients I met with she's darling. She's a young mom of 2, and she's actually expecting twins. And she said, I've been making cookies on my kitchen counter, and, I just want to grow my business and maybe at some point have, a bakery or whatever it was. And I just fell in love with her. And so the photo shoot had her children in it, and we've stayed in touch, and she's going to be in volume 12. And she sent me a text probably 2 weeks after the gala, and she said, I am booked out now through May. She was like, I can't take any more photos because, and it made me cry. I said, that's my job. Like, I'm so excited to hear that, and so it's just been I'm a people person. So I've been able to meet people that I would not have met otherwise and create just these really neat friendships and relationships in the communities. So I've enjoyed that.
That is fantastic. And kudos to you for doing that. I know that made a difference, at least in that one person's life, and I'm sure countless others.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. I hope you don't mind, but it's
this is not in the script.
Yeah. We have a lot of people in the state that listen to this podcast, a lot out of the state. What are some of the best hidden gems here in the state from a restaurant standpoint that you've come in contact with that people may not know about?
Well, Kessler Prime has been in the guide for a few years, and they're great friends of mine. And so, of course, I highly recommend them because I've never had a bad experience or a bad meal there, ever. I have Aplos in there now, and which both locations, the Renaissance location is closer to me. And so, but both have the outdoor seating, the live music, just really, really family friendly. And then Nuke's Eatery is in there. And then the Georgia Blue group with Starkville, I think they have one in Brookhaven, but that's kind of out of my area. But then Brandon, Jenna Benna's and the Gallows and the Madison location, they're doing a lot of live music now on Thursday nights at every location. So it's more of an experience. All of those they're great, the food and the staff and all of that, but it's more of an experience that the people who pick up this guide, they know that when they go there, it's going to be outstanding. And I'm working with a few others, hopefully for volume 12, because there's so many great places to offer throughout the state,
And that's what we tell people on here all the time. You know, a lot of times people don't realize, but you know, Jackson and the surrounding areas, there's so many, you know, locally owned places that are so unique that, you know, you get number one, a great experience when you go there, but then the food is phenomenal as well. So, and you know, that's for tons of different businesses here, not just restaurants, but it is a really cool atmosphere here in the area.
Well, and I love when someone reaches out to me and says, my brother owns a restaurant in, you know, Starkville or whatever, because it gives me a chance to go up there and they don't know that I'm doing a little secret tasting or kind of, you know, seeing how their service is, but I am, because I'm not going to recommend, you know, if it's not the best of, again, I mean, I want to bring those, and I want to bring people in there who are going to appreciate all of that. So, you know, that's my job. Even if they just think I'm over there, I'm ordering a pizza, just to order a pizza. I'm like,
yeah,
you know, it's fun.
You have a reputation to uphold as well, right? So, you know, if you publish something that's not the best or not great, or, you know, people, that leaves a bad taste in the client's mouth. So
in more ways than one.
Yeah, exactly. In more ways than one, especially if it's a bad dentist or something. That would be terrible.
That would be terrible. Yes.
So, Audrey, can you tell us though, like, so are there, like, let's say I own a dental practice and it's the best one and it's in your magazine and edition 11. Am I at top notch to be in number 12, or do you kind of like start the process over? What does that look like?
Well, since this is my first time to produce, you know, the follow-up, I did invite volume 11 members who feel like they want to be a part of it again. And I have had an 80% return rate so far. Wow. And I'm still waiting to hear from several, but I feel really good about that because I feel like they appreciated and saw the return on the investment, you know, on their end. And a lot of them are in other publications as well. They do some monthly, you know, magazines.
Sure.
But it made me feel like I did my job, you know, with that number coming back. And then I'm scouting right now. I've had a lot of great conversations in the last few weeks and meetings with other people in other areas. So it's just it's a nonstop year round, you know, piece. Even after I've sent it to print, I'm scouting it for the next ones. You know, it's just a constant.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking for a top podcast in Mississippi, I know a couple of guys who would be happy to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Well, tell our listeners a little bit about, you know, maybe there's someone out there listening and they say, hey, you know, I'm very interested in possibly having my own publication one day or publishing something. What goes into the background of doing that?
So this is a lot of what I learned last year. You know, you meet with the clients, you get to a point of an agreement, you send the contract and the invoice. That's just kind of the business side of it. And then once you get, so the difference in the Scout Guide and some other publications, we bring our photographers to you. We have a really fun photo shoot involving champagne if they choose, fun music. You know, we make it all about the client. We come up with the setting because I want it to be a memorable image. I want it to say, this is who we are for a year. And if you've, you know, had a chance to look through it, I hope that's what you see. Everyone that you see, you're like, oh, this tells me what they do. And then once we've selected the image, I work with our design team and then just bother the client as needed. They don't have to go through the process of selecting and putting it together and hiring their own graphic designers. We do that. And then once the image is exactly curated the way we want it, we combine all of those. I have to kind of go through another little bit of a process, getting the pages in order and all of that. And then we send it to print, and then we wait for it to get there and reveal the cover color. That's a big deal. You don't know what the color is until the launch party. So that's fun. It's a fun little thing that we get to do on the side. So it's a process. It's a lengthy process, but it's worth it.
Well, what's next for the Scout Guide? So do y'all have any upcoming cool things maybe in this next publication that you're putting out that maybe we didn't see last year?
There are a few that I can't tell you about, but
Man.
But so for instance, I will say Spring Street Cigars just opened right behind and next to the Rogue. So we're about to do their grand opening is June 21st. So I'm going to attend that. I like to attend as many as I can and bring, you know, the attention to them that, look, this is a great new business here. You know, women and men, y'all come support them. So I have a few of those coming up in the fall. And then the gala again in January is what we're planning right now. And I make it sound like the next 3 months of my life, no one will see my face because I will be behind a computer or behind a camera or in a photo shoot. But then the planning for the next one begins.
That's awesome. That's crazy that you have to start planning that so far out. Tyler and I are so fly by the seat of our pants most of the time that it's like that is just a foreign concept to us. Can you imagine
I
planning
don't know
something?
why I have balloons going off. That was fun. Did y'all
I
see
don't know.
the?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I guess. Happy
I have
birthday.
no clue what that was.
That was wild, dude. Anyway, what are, as we're rounding home here, can you tell us about the biggest challenges and opportunities facing publications like yours right now, just in this current world?
I think people assume that print is dying, and what I would like to tell them is it's really not. It is a recognizable, lasting image, lasting, guide. You can hold it in your hand. The social media piece is a definite bonus. The website, the newsletter, all of those things are definite bonuses, but they're not meant to replace that. People still want to hold this and feel this and keep it. And again, if they throw it away, don't tell me. But it's meant to be, because a fleeting moment of an image in a digital media setting is great. It brings you back to, oh yeah, that's who I need to go to. But the guy, any publication, any book, I still like to read a book holding it.
Yeah.
I do Audible and all those things too. But print is not dying. Print is going to be around for a very long time. They've done recent studies with it. I wish I could provide you with some, documented proof and percentiles and all that. But it's not a dying breed. It's just growing.
I'm a solid book guy too, physical book. I don't know. There's just something about it. I think it's like a pride thing too. I get to like put it on my bookshelf when I'm done with it, and I'm like, look, there it is forever. Like I get to tell everybody I read that book.
Exactly.
If it's on my iPad, even if it's like I get to turn pages on my iPad, like it's not physical. It's not there. I don't see it. I'm not reminded of it, right?
Exactly.
Unless somebody happens to say something that jogs my memory about something. And I used to do like Audible all the time, but then I was like, well, once I'm done with a book, I never think about it again. I forget that I even read it. So I'd like a physical copy.
Yeah.
Are you a physical book
I'm
guy?
the same way. It's I will read one on the iPad if I have to.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just takes away from the experience, the whole experience of.
No doubt.
And really, when you're looking at a, physical copy of something, number one, you can mark on it if you need to.
Yeah.
I guess you can do that on the iPad too, but you don't.
It's not the same.
You get away from the screen time too. I feel like it's good
Yeah.
to disconnect from the technology every now and then, and where you're not being targeted for stuff.
Yeah.
If you're on, if you're on Googling something, it's a great tool, but you don't know for sure that you're getting the top product. You're getting, whoever's paying enough for Google to be at the top.
The biggest SEO.
You don't really know if that's the best thing. Whereas if you're actually looking at like a scout guide, this has already been vetted.
It's an actual person who went, tried the food, tried the dentistry, tried the medical practice, whatever. Like somebody is actually vouching for it.
And really, with it being in so many different cities, I've had clients tell me that they collect them everywhere they go, and it makes them so excited to know that they're a part of it. And then they have a stack of them on their coffee table. They're really decorative, pretty.
Yeah.
That palpable piece of a book that you can write in, Post-it note, whatever.
Like you said, it's an experience for the people who are in it as well as the consumer reading it. So that's an important reminder, especially in today's world.
Yeah.
Experience is going to be everything.
It is.
Well, Audra, we appreciate you coming on today.
Of course.
We always like to take this time. Will you tell our listeners how they can find a copy of the Scout's Guide?
Yes, they are all over. Everybody who's in the guide gets as many copies to distribute throughout the year. So anybody who's in volume 11, you can find them and go, the restaurants, the dental offices, the medical offices, anywhere that's in there. There are distribution, partners, but anyone can contact me, go to the Scout Guide Instagram and you can contact me that way. You can send me a direct message. And, if you want a stack for your home and give them to, I actually had a bride reach out recently. She wants to be her wedding guest. And so I took her a case and she's going to give them to her bridesmaids. So I love to have that to share with people. So anybody can contact me anytime.
That's cool too, because I didn't even think about that. That's a gift that the bridesmaids can have, as a reminder on their own coffee table of like, that was when I was in my friend's wedding. That's cool.
Right. Yeah, great point.
Well, speaking of the Scout Guide, give us your review here on the
Gannett Peak.
Gannett Peak.
I wasn't a fan. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to be because Wyoming is just such a cool state. And, there's all kinds of beautiful mountains and hills and trees and grass and water and stuff, all the nature things, but there's just not a lot of flavor to it. It was too smooth. It was almost like water. It was like if you've tried like a lager and then go straight to like a Coors Light or something, it's like drinking water after you've had like an actual flavorful beer. And I have nothing against Coors Light. I like a Coors Light, but it's like this is like a whiskey light. That's what it tastes like to me. It's like a very light version, but you still get the same amount of calories, and it's still an 86 proof. So I don't know. I'm a 6.8, a little higher tthan you, but
well, we will land at, we give real reviews like the Scout Guide, so we will land at a 6.7. It's not bad, if it's worth picking up a bottle.
It wasn't too expensive either. It was like $20-$30. So
there you go. But all our listeners, however you stream this podcast.
Wait. Where'd you get Audra's
Oh yeah, I forgot you have a drink
on her Glenfiddich.
Give us your review on your drink. Sorry about that.
So I'm going to make a bad face because I am not a Scotch drinker, but I will do this.
Look, kudos to you for trying to make yourself a Scotch drinker.
I mean, it's nice. I didn't know the noises, but it's really, really, really good. I'm learning about Scotch, and so this is a newfound thing for me. I don't hate it. I don't know how to rate it. I don't know all the things, but
well, the biggest rating is, will you drink it again?
I will taste it again. How about that?
Good answer.
Well, there you go. Well, to all our listeners, however you stream this, you will give us a rating, and if you will follow us on social media, and we will see you next week.
Thank y'all so much.
Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
If you have any feedback or would like to be featured, reach out to us at bourbonandbusinesspodcast@gmail.com.
Or find us on Instagram at Bourbon and Business Podcast.
Thanks again for listening.
Follow us for more content and info on the next episode.